सुप्रभात सभी को। आप सभी को हिंदी दिवस की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। आशा है कि हमारी मातृभाषा हिंदी सदैव हमारे हृदयों को जोड़ती रहे, हमें अपनी जड़ों से जोड़े रखे और आने वाली पीढ़ियों को भी इसकी मधुरता और गरिमा पर गर्व करने की प्रेरणा देती रहे। आज हिंदी दिवस के उपलक्ष्य में आप सभी को हार्दिक बधाइयां और बहुत सारा प्रेम गुड स्कूल अलायंस की तरफ से। आगे अब जुगजीत से हमारी सर, आप बुक रीड करना चाहेंगे कि आप पहले ब्लॉग दिखाना चाहेंगे?
हाँ, but you know, Aradhya ka request tha. Aradhya is not here, so you can start with the book.
ओके सर, जस्ट गिव मी अ मिनट।
In case he joins later, then we'll do it later. Okay, so far in the last chapter, what uh, what happened was that Carl, based on you know the suggestion of Shaska and her actually carrying that out by giving books from her own pocket money to the customers, I think Carl realized that it made sense to give them books which were helpful for them and not necessarily what perpetuated their state, right? Like Effie, there was no point giving her depressing books to read, and so want instead of giving books to Darcy around some sort of textbook subject. She gave him a book on carpentry so he could do something. So that was Shaska's idea, and I think uh, Carl figured out that he could do things to help some of his customers. So in the last chapter, we saw that he sets up Mrs. Longstocking, who hasn't been out of her house for years, to go outside her house to teach Hercules. Hercules keeps ordering books, but actually doesn't know how to read, and and so they keep that a secret still, and it's supposed to be that he's learning to teach somebody else. And then they set up that session with the reader in the cigar factory. The reader has written a very nice book. Carl has read it, and he felt it was a very good book, and so they replaced the book he was reading at the cigar factory by his own book, and then he's forced to read it, and it goes off well. And then in the second part of the chapter, we found two things happening. One is that Jaska goes missing and doesn't show up, and he's missing her. And the other thing is that he gets fired from his job, and he's not able to tell customers that. And so there we'll read on. Okay. So chapter 6, called Tracks. Carl bought the books. He received no money on delivery. His customers had long since moved to bank transfer direct to the bookshop's account. It would only come to light at year end when the lovely tax advisor from Lauenberg, Miller and Uppen pointed it out. To enable him to buy enough books, Carl sold his book. Every day, more disappeared from his shelf. All the paper and ink friends that had shared his home for years, decades, were gradually moved out of his apartment. Carl didn't have the heart to hand them over in person to hands. The antiquarian bookshop. Antiquarian is somebody dealing with old books or antiques. So he paid Leon, the work experienced lad, to do it. And Leon, used to work at the bookstore as an apprentice. And Hans is the one who Shaska had got the books from to give to customers. The work experienced lad to do it waiting for him outside the city gate bookshop at closing time. He received almost nothing for his treasures. Sometimes a new book could cost him 20 old ones, and his customers were ordering more than ever before. It was their way of easing his distress. So when he's visiting them, and even when he got fired and he went, it was obvious to his customers that there's something wrong and he was distressed. But Carl hadn't wasn't able to share it with. The other thing that happened in the last chapter was that Gustav passed away. Gustav is Sabine Gruber's father, and Sabine Gruber now currently runs the bookshops, and she's the one who's fired him because she wants to run it her way and believes that there's no need to deliver books. Things can happen online. Carl attended Gustav's funeral from a distance because Sabine said it was meant to be a few people and told Carl not to come. It was a small group of mourners, just three people, to accompany the old bookseller on his final journey. Carl waited until they had disappeared, then stood by the graveside to give his old friend a few volumes of Winnetou and the old Shatterhand. Valiant heroes who would watch well over it. Paper is carbon, he thought. We humans are the same. Books and humans are made of the same stuff. He continued gifting his customers books too, which only served to empty his shelves even faster. Darcy received Jane Austen's complete works. After giving Effie a number of books about women who had left their husbands, Carl began giving her crime novels about women who murdered their husbands instead. Poison seemed to be the preferred method. Not that Carl wished to encourage her to commit such an act, he merely wanted to show where it could all lead if she didn't leave. So Effie is being, abused by her husband, and it's obvious to Carl and Jaska that that's what's happening. That's why he changed the type of books he's been giving. You must stop giving me those books. Everything is wonderful here, said Effie. Her husband had told her the exact words she should choose. He had found the novel and read the back covers. He'd immediately thrown the books away, along with Effie's favorite novel. I'm afraid you've gained completely the wrong impression, she continued. Carl could see there were no longer any flowers behind her in the hall. Not a single cut flower or house plant. Not a living thing to be seen. Effie closed the door quickly. It had been too many lies all at once, and they weren't as attractively packaged as the. As he stood alone at the closed door, Carl missed Shaska's cheery chatter. It had always put him in mind of the rattling of a watermill as a small stream runs through it, glinting in the sunlight. So he talked to her and she talked back. Okay? He's just imagining this. That was a lie, said Shaska. Didn't get the wrong impression at all. I know, but she's not lying to us. She's lying to herself. As they continued their route, Shaska drove him on when his footsteps dragged. She said, "You need to work faster or the books will go bad." As they approached Pino's, she told him in a strict voice, "No ice cream today. You need the money for books. They're a foodstuff with a longer shelf life." Right? So, in fact, Shaska had described books as, or Carl had described books as food for the brain, I think, earlier in the book. Carl realized this couldn't go on. He needed the real Shaska. He couldn't phone or visit. She had never told him her surname or pointed out the building in which she lived. He decided the following day he would visit all the school playgrounds in the city, even peel Eyes peeled and asked children in Shaska's age group if they knew a little girl with dark curls. Shaska one met was never forgotten. Carl had climbed Mount Everest and dived into Mariana Trench. He had traveled remote regions of Kurdistan and conducted research in the icy Antarctic. His books had given him all these experiences. Mercifully, they had spared him the world of German elementary school. Such a chaotic maelstrom. Maelstrom literally means no, whirling gush of water. Such a chaotic maelstrom of small running human beings. As a child, Carl had once found an ant heap in the forest and had returned again and again for weeks to observe. That also that had also been a great scurrying swarm, but it had its own internal order. At the St. Leonhard School, on the other hand, the playground seemed to have produced a successful demonstration of chaos theory in action. On his way to the entrance, Carl bumped into one child after another, or rather, they practically ran him over. Even worse than the turmoil was the shouting and yelling. Reading, in contrast, was a silent occupation. Even when the pages told tales or elephants used by Hannibal to cross the Alps in 2018 BCE, there was no trumpeting to rattle the living room windows, or when the tank of Rommel's 7th Panzer Division broke through the Maginot Line near Maubeuge. His own breathing had still been the loudest sound in the room. He had everything, he heard everything with his eyes. When Carl finally made it into the building, he leaned against the wall and took several deep breaths. Then he asked his way to the school office, where he was informed they were not permitted to give out any information. Carl decided to ask the children. The bell was ringing for the end of recess, and a storm tide of students washed past. One boy, roughly Shaska's age, was trotting slowly enough for Carl to speak. Do you know a girl called Shaska? What kind of weird name is that? Asked the boy. I thought that's what children are called these days, like they used to be Edu, Edeltraud or Gertrude. Nah, there's no one called that in this school. I have to get to geography. He had forgotten his homework again, but he wasn't going to tell the crazy old man that. Judging by Shaska's age, Carl knew she must be in her final year of elementary school or first year of middle school. Starting from Munsterplatz, he had marked all the potential schools on a city map. There were seven altogether. The St. Leonard School had been number one. Carl wasn't sure his ears and nerves would withstand all seven. Let's just take a short pause here. So, what I'm trying to do now is read a little bit faster than I used to so that you get a reasonable part of the story, right? Uh, while we also try and talk about things that happen within that, right? So, any questions on what we've read so far? Anything you've not understood? Okay, things I'm sure you've not understood.
If you want to ask some questions, you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you.
Yeah. So, there are many things you've not understood. Okay, so let's go back to where we started to read from. Okay. So the book that Carl placed on Gustav's grave was Winnetou and the Old Shatterhand. Okay, so this is a book by Carl May, and Carl May's books have sold about 200 million copies. And just to put it in perspective, uh, book we're reading, door to door bookstore, has sold 50 million copies. Uh, so Winnetou and Old Shatterhand is actually also made into a film. It's a western. Does anybody know what a western is? What is a western movie which is called a western movie? What is it? Anybody? I don't know if you all see them these days. When I was in school, we used to see a lot of westerns. Anybody? What is a western?
Karthik raised his hand. Let me unmute him. Karthik, you're allowed to talk.
Hello, ma'am. Is my voice audible?
Yes,
Yes,
you're
yes,
audible.
very much.
In my point of view, Western is something which used to describe a movie or something created in the Western sides of the world from our point of view.
Right. So, where are you based, Karthik? Which school are you from?
I'm from Sanveem School, Mughal.
Ah, okay. So that's good. So, are you in hostel?
No, sir.
Ah, okay. So no, yeah, that's what the Western. I mean, that's you're guessing what it means, and but in this case, that's not correct. Okay, so a Western film used to be a movie which used to be, about cowboys and Red Indians. Okay, cowboys were these folks were in Texas, and it's about
कौन
both
सा चैप्टर
West.
है ईमानदारी?
Sorry. So, movies basically about cowboys and red Indians. And you know, when we were small, we used to get shown movies in hostel. Anybody in hostel here? Does that still happen in the Sunbeam School? Karthik, you may know whether it happens in Mughal Sarai.
No, we don't have any hostels in Sanveem School, Mughal.
Ah, okay. Anybody else? If the other Sunbeams, are they or any other school which has hostels? I mean, do they still show movies? We used to see movie every Saturday. Anybody? I mean,
Karthik Chauhan, just give me a minute. Yes, Karthik, you want to say something or
No, ma'am, I don't want to say anything.
okay. Manu Gupta, grade 8. Do you wish to say something?
Ma'am, in Sanveem hostel Tara, it is soon movies.
Can you just say that again?
In Sanveem hostel Tara, we have seen some movies
Ah, that's good.
sometime.
So, is that like every Saturday or every Sunday or once in 2 weeks, once a month? How does it work?
Sir, I think so once in 2 weeks.
Ah, okay. And what type of movies do you see?
Sir, this year we have seen Chava and
So we have Purav raising his hand. Purav, you're allowed to talk. Purav, do you wish to say something? You are audible, beta. Purav Chauhan,
Anmol,
SS.
Anmol has also raised his hand.
Okay. Anmol Singh, do you wish to say something?
Gone off now, but fine. Somya, Sunbeam, Tara.
Soumya, you're allowed to talk.
Siddharth
Uh,
raised it a bit.
Jai Hind, sir. So
Yeah.
in our hostel, we used to see movies, motivational movies actually, such as Mary Com. Hello?
Yeah,
Right?
Soumya, we heard that. Maricom, you said.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
and many movies, many motivational movies like that.
Okay. So no fun movies.
Yeah, fun movie also, but uh, most probably we used to watch motivational that give us some uh, moral type.
Right, right, right. So, when I think back about those films, at that time, based on the films, I think Red Indians are bad guys, right? Somehow all the movies portrayed Red Indians as the villains, right? And in the movie, like most Hindi movies, there'll be a villain and there'll be heroes, and the hero will always win. That's what used to happen in those cowboy movies, westerns as well. And I grew up thinking that Red Indians are bad people. Not necessarily true. Many things depend on who makes movies or who writes history, right? So many things are dependent on that. Okay. Uh, so Carl, said that paper is carbon and humans are the same. So can anybody tell me, is that correct? Not correct? Is paper carbon? What is does human body have carbon? Anybody have any answers to that?
Yes, Karthik, you may speak.
Ma'am, paper is created by using trees, and trees, as all living things, have carbon 14 within themselves. Humans also have carbon 14 within themselves.
Okay, so how much of the human body is carbon?
For that, I don't know about that, how much percentage is made up of, but something is sure that after that, the carbon 14 is not intaken. So around 10-20%.
Okay, Arish has raised his hand.
Yes, Arish.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning,
Morning.
beta.
Ma'am, our body have 18% of carbon.
That's pretty close. So at least what I also didn't know. I Googled it yesterday. Yeah, 18.5%. And what is the dominant element in the body?
Sir, I think it's all that blood cells.
Hmm?
Blood cells.
No, no, no. Element, right? So like carbon is an element, right? So what is the largest element?
Okay, sir, I am telling weight. Largest element is, I think,
Oxygen.
yes, sir, oxygen.
Yes,
65%.
yes. Now you're Googling it side by side?
Yes.
No, sir.
No?
I
Are
have my
you
book nearby. I think.
Okay. No, that's good. It's okay. I mean, if you don't know, find out, tell everybody. That works these days. So, yeah, and paper is basically made out of cellulosic material, and that has carbon in it. So, okay, let's go on. So now then we came across Effie in what we just read. Okay, now Effie is being abused by her husband. Okay, he beats her up. uh, we read about the story in the book that I think she was a nurse and he came and he was injured and she fell in love with him and they got married and she has been putting up with with his beating for years and she basically hopes that one day he'll be fine. Okay, if I remember right, that's what Effie's belief is. And it may be linked to a later thing that is, we read in the chapter that she's not lying to us, she's lying to herself. So maybe it's a lie to herself, and we'll come to that piece of it. But so here is Effie, who's being beaten by her husband almost every day. And what advice would you give to her? What would be your advice to her? What should she do? Continue like this? What should she do? Anybody, what is your advice to her?
Myra.
So Arohi, is it better now?
Yes, Myra, you're allowed to talk.
Yes, so I think that she should definitely leave her husband because she's been tolerating him for so long, and as we can see, he's not improving, and he's also not feeling guilty for his actions. So she should prioritize herself over somebody else and leave her husband.
And she should leave because of, besides what you said, what else?
What's it?
I mean, she should obviously leave because there's no point getting beaten up every day, right? But what else? What else? What is the other reason she should leave?
Sir, I think because she's putting somebody else before her, and she's giving her husband more power, and she's not looking after herself.
Yeah, that's an important point, right? Which I wanted to bring out, that she's not taking care of herself. We all must care of ourselves, right? Self-care is really important, and she's wasting her life, right? Her full day must be spent in fear because she don't doesn't know what will trigger him and what will lead to what, So she's leading a life of fear, and she's not being able to live freely, right? And we talked of freedom on the 15th of August and why it was important, right? And this brings up another subject which is covered over here, that she's not lying to us, but she's lying to herself, right? Any examples you can think of when we lie to ourselves, right? We all do it, right? When we lie to ourselves, can you think something that you know is not really true, but you've told yourself that it's true, and you tell others also, and you hope that will become better on its own? When you any examples you can think of?
Yeah, I have an example.
Tell me.
Sir, like sir, I have a friend who is like average student in study. So, sir, he always said that I will study tomorrow and tomorrow, but he does not study anytime. That's my point.
Absolutely. That's a really good example. This is an example of procrastination. And we all tell us, no, 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 I'll study tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow. And tomorrow never comes because you actually, you don't want to do it. But today you want to pass today by saying, I'll do this tomorrow. Yes,
Yes, sir.
that's a really good example of a lie. People tell themselves. And when you lie to yourself, the person you're fooling is yourself only. You're not facing up to a situation, and you're postponing things, right? So it's important, not to lie to yourself. And there could be many, many reasons why we end up lying to ourselves, but it's important to recognize if you're lying to yourself and do something about it. Okay, we came across a watermill. So, Arish, is watermill there in your book? Can you tell us what a watermill is? Anybody? What is a watermill? Anybody heard of a watermill? Okay, watermills go
Sir,
back.
I know.
Okay, tell us.
Sir, I think it's a hydropower plant.
So, the hydropower plant is built on the same concept, right? Of,
Yes,
you
sir.
have water coming in at a certain speed and it turns a wheel, and the wheel turns something else, right?
Yes, sir.
So, it's based on the same similar concept. So, watermills actually go back to the 3rd century BC. Okay, think about it. 3rd century BC is when the Greeks used watermills, and watermills have been used in India too. And one use of watermills was grinding grain, right, to make flour. So that's one.
Generate power.
Generate power now. I mean, if you've, I don't know if anybody of you visited a hydropower plant. I remember going to Niagara many, many years ago, and it's really fascinating, right, to see how that happens. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of the Niagara Falls. They're very, very uh, spectacular. Right. Okay, then we came across Mariana Trench. Anybody knows what is Mariana Trench? What is Mariana Trench? Yes, Karthik.
Sir, Mariana Trench is the biggest hole and a trench in the world, and it is located in the Pacific Ocean.
Okay, now do you know this or are you Googling it?
No, sir, I know that.
Very good. It's okay if you Google also, but if you know, it's obviously much better. So yeah, so it's a, it is, and do you know how deep it is? Mariana Trench?
11 miles deep.
Okay, now 11 miles is how many feet?
So I know.
Okay, tell us.
So it's about 11 kilometer deep or nearly 7 miles.
Okay. I don't,
Excuse
I mean,
me,
I
but
remember it as
uh,
36,000 feet.
kilometers,
Okay. I remember it
isn't
as
a mile and
36.
kilometer same?
No. Mile and kilometer is not same, boss. 1.6 kilometers equal to a mile. So it's, if I remember right, it's about 36,000 feet, and one of you may be right. Both can't be right. But it's 36,000 feet. So it is deeper than the height of Mount Everest. Okay. So now let me ask you another question. How how would somebody measure the height of Mount Everest? How would somebody measure? And there was a recent team a few years ago, the Chinese and the Nepalese team. They uh, measured the height of Mount Everest and declared it's 8850 feet. How do you think they measured it? Yes, Purab. Purab, if you want to say something, I think you should be unmuted. Yeah, you are. Can't hear you. Asim, Arya. Yeah, they measure it from sea level. By definition, height, is measured from sea level. But how?
So I think the radar and laser system.
Yes, I think you should all find out how it's done. Asim, you want to tell us how?
So like they are having radars and lasers which find out the height of the Mount Everest.
Okay, Karthik.
I don't know how they measured in the past, but right now they use a GNS system in which they locate a radar on the bottom of the hill of whatsoever mountain they want to measure, and then a satellite or a weather balloon is left on the top of it. From there, they estimate the value of the height of the mountain.
And what, I mean, what would be the name of some of the techniques that you would use to measure it?
They call
Asim,
it something like GNSS.
what? G?
NSS.
What is GNSS? Yes, GNSS is what I read the other day. Yes. What does GNSS stand for? Just spell it out.
Glo- Excuse me, sir. Could you hear it?
GNSS. What does
Global
GNSS stand
Navigation
for?
Satellite System.
Right. Asim, you want to come in? We can't hear you if you're speaking. Or Purab. Purab, you're on mute. Yeah, Purab. No, can't hear you. But one technique that is used to use it is something that you all study in maths in the course of school. Okay. Trigonometry. That's one use that trigonometry has. Okay. So, I mean, to me, it is very fascinating as to how they actually measure the height of something like the Mount Everest.
Yeah, that reminds me for the formula. Base square plus height square is hypotenuse square. Hypotenuse.
Uh, so, okay, there are some other things that we came up, but we'll get back to them. Let's read a bit more now. Okay. So he's in school, right? And Carl wasn't sure his ears and nerves would withstand all seven. At the next one, he spared himself the walk to the office, deciding instead directly to the students standing in the playground during recess. He asked both older and younger students, gave them Shaska's name, and described her as best as he could. He managed six. At the last, the Pestalozzi Middle School. He had spoken to three girls when the playground supervisor, in the form of a teacher in a Gore-Tex jacket, unzipped up to his chin, loomed in front of him. Gore-Tex is a material which I believe it's been banned now. It's waterproof. May I ask what or who are you looking for? Shaska, replied Carl. She is 9 years old and she has dark. There is no Shaska here, the teacher interrupted him. Please leave the school premises immediately and don't ever try talking to our students again, or I'll call the police. But who is this Shaska? Clearly not your granddaughter. She would have told you where she goes to school. She is Carl faltered. The playground supervisor took hold of his arm. Are you confused? Should I phone someone for you? Yes, no, replied Carl, sounding more confused than ever. It's best I just go. I think you're right. He patted Carl on the back like a knacker patting a horse flank as it goes for slaughter. Okay? A knacker, I think, is someone who does this for a job, taking the animals to slaughter. The seventh school had closed, so he decided to visit his customers in search of Shasta. And because Carl could no longer bear her absence, he imagined her alongside him. She wore her yellow winter jacket, gleaming like new. Her little backpack was stuffed full, but she still hopped and leaped as if the road surface was made of rubber. She even talked all the while in his head. His replies, on the other hand, were not so confined. First, he went to Mr. Darcy. That was, after all, where his round always began. I like Darcy a lot, especially his garden, declared Shasta. He's just imagining. Then why didn't you say anything when he showed us his floral clock? Silly old man, said Terry. I was so excited because I had a book to give him. I think I might be in his garden in that awesome chair. And Mrs. Longstocking, Jaska said, I'm here for sure. With a teacher? She's not a school anymore. Teachers are only really horrible in school where kids can't escape them. Anybody has a comment on that? Teachers are horrible in school and they're better human beings outside. Anybody? Any thoughts on the subject? Uh, Difference between teachers inside school and outside school? Anybody? Any thoughts on that? Teachers inside school, outside school? Manisha's all ears. Okay, think about it. We'll come back to it. That sounds terrible. It is. You've just forgotten because it was so long ago. But Mrs. Longstocking is nice now. She's like a dragon that can't breathe fire anymore. I might be at hers doing my homework with no risk of being burnt to a crisp. Now you have got it. When they reached Hercules's door, there was no more doubt in Shaska's voice. Where else would anyone rather be than with a chap that's powerful, who always offers you a drink too? Since when did you say chap and not guy? Sometimes it came to Carl's attention that he was talking to himself, but he was always quick to find his way back into the narrative. Guy, chap, it's all the same. I've decided to start using your old words. So you understand me. Thank you. And that's exceptionally thoughtful of you. She was at Dr. Foster's home because she wanted to take another look at the puppy calendar. The puppy calendar is actually given to Dr. Foster's by Schascha, brought out of her own pocket money. Particularly the September dashes, and at the reader's apartment to ask him to read her current book assignment out loud. When they arrived at Sister Amaryllis's convent, Shaska was positive she was behind the convent walls, as she had always wanted to be a nun, an assertion Carl found odd, but was not inconceivable. At every door, Carl asked, "Have you seen Shaska? Has she been here?" No one had seen her. She had not visited anyone. Everyone was concerned. Carl was not only one to have developed a soft spot for the child. She had saved Effie for last, or perhaps Jaska had. Carl couldn't say for certain. It felt like approaching the final chapter of a book and fearing it would not contain the anticipated ending. "Why would I be at Effie's?" asked Shah. "She's so unhappy. Her and her husband scares me." "You're courageous and you have a good heart. You want to help. You have a good heart too. And why don't you help her?" "Because I'm too frightened," replied Carl, pulling his cloth hat low on his forehead. "That's why I've been living the same day over and over for decades. Only the minor details change. And that's what anxious people do." "I'm not a minor detail." "No, you're decidedly not," said Carl. "Now ring the bell." She prodded a small finger into his chest. "Do you not even dare do that? Just ring it." It took Effie a while to come to the door. This time, she hadn't been standing behind the door, but had come up from the basement. She didn't look as perfect as usual. Her eyes had dark circles and her skin was flushed. "Mr. Colhoff, has something happened? You don't usually come at this time of the day. Have you seen Shaska? Is she missing?" "Yes, well, I miss her." The significance of the question hit him. Was she not just missing from his own world, but the wider world too? Had she disappeared? Had something happened to her? "Have you by any chance read anything in..." Effie shook her head. "Is she not at home?" The fear began to expand in Carl's stomach, like air in a leather ball. "She always met me at Munsterplatz. I'm sure she's fine. Maybe she's on a school trip." She would have definitely have told me. Shaska's not the kind of girl simply not come. She's so reliable. Effie stroked Carl's hand gently. "Mr. Colhoff, I would love to help you look for her, but my hands are..." She could say nothing further. "I'm so sorry." He closed the door without another word. In fact, from that moment on, there wasn't another word from anyone. Jaska had fallen silent too. Carl delivered no books that week. Okay, so anybody want to talk about teachers inside and outside school? Any difference?
That's an interesting question.
So I can talk about it.
Okay,
Can I?
batao.
So teachers are formal, disciplined in the school, but the outside they are relaxed and approachable.
Yes, that sounds logical. I would say so. Yeah, I think the
So,
only
what could be
thing
the reason of this analysis?
the schools are formal, right? I mean, you have to get something done, you have to teach, you have
Yes,
to do certain things, and you're also running around, I guess.
yes, sir.
Anybody else? Any other observations of teachers inside and outside school? Purab has again raised his hand, but we're not able to hear you. You have to unmute yourself first.
He is having some trouble with
Am I audible,
his
sir?
device.
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning and joint teachers.
Then,
So I think so in school teachers are more focusing on studies, school management and the like discipline of the school, and like in outside the school they are very casual and like they are living their own life like we all live in general.
yes, 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 yes.
Yes, sir,
So you
that's
sort of feel they're more human outside school, right?
So sweet of him.
Yeah. Okay. There were a few other things that we uh, can
So
talk
much.
about. I'm just wondering, is Aradhya here?
Aradhya. Let me check, sir. I don't think so.
That's Aradhya Kashyap. Okay. So okay, then let's just talk a little bit more. There's that section in which Carl talks about when he's a kid and he's watched ants. Has anybody watched ants? Do you have any comment on ants? You've seen ants doing things. Okay. No is also an answer. Ronak says no.
Purav Chauhan, do you wish to say something?
No, he said no. He's put in a chat.
Okay.
Sir, pardon, please.
Say that again.
Sir, pardon, please.
So have you ever noticed ants
Yes, sir.
doing things? GT,
Yes.
have you
Sir,
noticed them?
they took a small piece of food and they take to their, home or something.
And when you've seen that, there could be 3, 4 ants carrying that piece if it's too big, right?
Yes.
What's always fascinated me is that there, as Carl said, I mean, on the book, the author said, they're not disorganized. They seem very organized. If you see them going from one place to the other,
The
they'd many
hard
times be in a
worker,
line.
teamwork, and all.
Yeah, they'd be in a line, right? You won't see them, very rarely do you see them swarming around like he described the children in the school. They seem to be very organized, right? And that's what brings us to this concept of chaos theory, right? Which is
So,
that, one small thing which supposed to happen in the beginning doesn't happen, and it can create a lot of chaos. Okay, so think of one, one car stuck on a highway, right? Just one car stuck, the beginning of a highway, and a large part of the highway can get jammed. Okay. Think of a little bit change in pressure somewhere can change weather many other places, right? So that's what chaos theory uh, points out. So now, any thoughts on how Carl went about deciding which 7 schools to visit? Any thoughts on that? It's explained in the book. He took a map. So what would you do? Any thoughts? How would you go about finding possible schools where Shaska could study?
Sir, by giving an announcement from the principal room.
He doesn't know much, right, about her, and then they'll ask her, "Who are you?" and he has no answer, right?
Yes,
But
sir, but
what I'm trying to
if
understand, the question I'm asking is, he chose 7 schools to visit, right? How did he choose these 7 schools? Yes, Myra.
There, I think maybe he like took a map and saw the schools which were most near, and then he went to those 7 schools.
Okay, and how if you were to do it, How would you define near?
So like in a radius of certain, area.
Absolutely. That's what I would also do, I think. That, you have to see, okay, Munsterplatz, she meets him. So let's take a certain radius around Munsterplatz. And if he doesn't find her in these seven, what is the next step?
What's that?
Increase the radius, right? That's what he would do, right? Okay, so Manisha, you want me to read more, or you want to do the Joy of Learning diary?
Just 1 minute. I cannot see ma'am has come so far. Brinda ma'am is
Right.
here.
Okay.
Good morning, Brinda ma'am.
Okay, so let me just read.
Good morning.
Let me read a wee bit because I think it's an interesting. Let me read a couple of pages. Okay. Neglecting his round had the same effect on Carl's life as removing a small pebble that secures a whole wall. He struggled to get to sleep, then slept through the rattling of his old alarm clock the following morning. When he did wake up, he gazed in horror at the clock face before dressing hurriedly and setting out, without shaving or eating breakfast, to the last of the seven schools. Schascha had to be there. His visits to educational establishments on the previous day had caused him such stress. He attempted to calm himself with the thought that he would be surrounded by books, tucked into school bags, or lying on tables, even if they were only school books, which weren't designed for calming anybody. At, at the call off school, as the bell rang for recess and children streamed into the yard, he stood by the double doors, calling Shaska's name over and over. Each yellow coat made him jump and shout louder. Each shock of dark curls that came bobbing around the corner made him crane his neck. Soon the scream of children became a trickle, and Carl began to question individual truth. At least that was what he imagined he was doing in reality. It bore more resemblance to an interrogation. Shaska must be here. Tell me where I can find her. Or is Shaska still inside? Is she ill? You must know. None of these children knew anything about Shaska, but they did not know a lot about how to run away from God. This time it was the caretaker who drove him away, wielding a broom with all the menace of an experienced marital arts practitioner. Carl went to the nearest discount store. He paused at a Franconian bookstore. There picked a box of cheap Italian table wine from the lowest shelf. His fingers weren't in the mood for gliding over the elegant curves of a bottle. They settled for sharp edges and corners of a cart. He had barely stepped back onto the pavement before he tore the carton open and began to drink. On his way home, he passed the railing outside the St. Leonard School. The laughter and cheerful squealing of children drifted across, mocking him. He looked away. Something yellow flashed in the corner of his eye. He ignored it. Then a child shouted, "Give me back my book." And he turned as if a book in peril was his concern. And there she stood, not wearing her yellow winter coat, nor had it been Shaska's hers that had been a red-haired boy standing nearby, desperately trying to reach a school book that a taller boy was holding above his head, snatching it away each time he jumped. Carl read Shaska's lips as they formed the words. "It's the bookwalker." She ran to the railing, You've been looking for me, haven't you? Joy bubbled up in Carl as fiercely as a shaken champagne bottle that had just been uncorked. He was so happy. His heart ached. I was worried, but now I have found you. Can't see where we are on the screen, but we're all 11:28, so I want to stop here. Yeah. I just wanted to finish this part where he finds Jaska. Stop here. Okay, you want me to read? Let me read this bit so this page is covered.
So you can complete this page.
Okay. Shaska hugged him through the bars. I've missed you so much. Do you know that? I missed you too. I missed you more to the moon and back. That's from a book. Still true, she beamed. I asked after you here yesterday, but nobody knew you. Did you ask for Shaska? Yes, of course. She grinned. There's no Shaska here. But she pointed to her own chest. Charlotte, I'm only Shaska to you. I've always wanted my friends to call me that. But they never did. I made the name up for myself. This was true, but not the whole truth. Charlotte had invented a superheroine for herself because the boys in class 8 were forever showing off at break, pretending to be Captain America or Iron Man. She had imagined a woman flying over town in a fluttering red cape with yellow laser beams shooting from her eyes. That was Shasta. She looked exactly like her mother in the black framed photo on the hall table. Charlotte always picked daisies on the way home to lay in front of her. I'm very pleased to meet you, Charlotte, said Carl, bowing. It's an honor to be allowed to call you Shaska. I think so too. Carl threw the wine box in the garbage can. Why did you stop coming? Okay, let's stop here. Okay, any questions, any comments, anything before we get Brinda ma'am in? So Pulab says we can measure the length of the mountain by Pythagoras' theorem. I can't say yes or no to them, but seems to be some logic in that, Pulab. But trigonometry is the answer I read. And GNSS is the other thing that came across. So we just hand it over to Brinda ma'am.
Good morning, everybody. So from one book, from one genre to another, I think what you were reading with Sir was very real to life because those may be experiences that you can relate very closely to. So now from the human world to the world of animals and to the inner life of animals, we have a new chapter today. Manisha ma'am, we'll start with high society. So that's what we're going to read. And let's hope you all are ready to listen. High society. Have you ever read the novel Watership Down? It's a moving story about some rabbits living in the English countryside that have to move out of their old home and look out for a new one. When they find new territory, they must fight the local rabbits until they finally conquer a corner for themselves. We shelter a family of rabbits in the garden at our forest lodge. Hazel, Emma, Blackie, and Oscar live in a small enclosure. They have weatherproof accommodation and an open space where they are free to roam. We get a good view of their social life. There are fights and squabbles, but mostly there are moments of tenderness. The rabbits lick each other's fur or, on warm summer days, stretch out nestled up against each other in the shade. Of course, there is also a hierarchy. But with only 4 animals, we can't find out much about it. So does anybody want to tell me what is the meaning of the word hierarchy? We have hierarchy in all kinds of places. So does anybody know what is hierarchy? Even in the schools, even among students, we have a hierarchy. So does anyone want to tell me what is the meaning of the word hierarchy? If you want to just raise your hand, and I think you will be given access to speak. What is hierarchy? Yes, somebody's hand is up, I think. Was that Karthik? Karthik, did you put up your hand?
No,
It's
ma'am.
Myra and Summer.
Okay. Yes, let me hear what is the meaning of the word, if you know it.
Yeah, ma'am. So hierarchy is like the level or the post. So for example, in the school, as you said, there's the
Yes,
principal, and then there's the vice principal, then headmistress, and
right.
so on and so forth.
All right. So that's hierarchy. Very good. And when I talked about school, I also meant among students also. If there is a student council in the school, there is a hierarchy. So it is levels of positions that people hold. But sometimes these levels that we are talking about in a school, these are all given. These are posts that students are either elected to or nominated to. But in the natural world, this position of hierarchy comes naturally. So if you see a pride of lions, you will always find that there is one lion which is the leader, and that leader is obeyed. Nobody makes him the leader, but it's surely by his strength that he becomes the leader. And it is so in a pack of wolves or in any group of animals. And even amongst human beings, those who have leadership qualities, they naturally emerge as leaders, and then they have these followers. And everywhere now in organized societies, there is hierarchy. So what the author is telling us here is that even when rabbits live together, there is hierarchy. But since they had just 4 of them, it wasn't very obvious whether there was any ranking or whether there was any hierarchy amongst them. So Dr. Dietrich von Holst, a professor at the University of Beirut, has a completely different setup. He created a 22,000 square meter research area for wild rabbits and spent 20 years observing their behavior. Population levels were constantly changing. On the one hand, diseases and predators wiped out up to 80% of the sexually mature adults. On the other, they bred like rabbits, as the saying goes. So the group grew to about 100 adults. Holmes noticed that this population fluctuation didn't affect all levels of rabbit society equally. Rabbits live according to a strict hierarchy, which is different from each sex. Each rabbit vigorously defends its rank, and for good reason. Dominant animals reproduce more successfully. Although the top males and females are more aggressive, overall they suffer less from stress. That makes good sense. After all, rabbits are constantly being pushed around, live in constant fear of the next attack. High status rabbits experience elevated levels of stress hormones only in short bursts when they are attacking. No wonder Professor von Holst reported that the high-ranking rabbits experienced lower levels of stress. In addition, high-ranking rabbits have especially close social contact with rabbits of the opposite sex, which helps them relax. The average lifespan of an adult rabbit is 2.5 years. And there are clear discrepancies between these rabbits at different levels of the hierarchy. Whereas rabbits on the lowest levels often die just a few weeks after reaching sexual maturity, rabbits of high social standing live up to 7 years. And that is not just because they get more to eat or are picked off less often by predators. No, the most decisive factor is lower stress levels. A life with less worry and therefore more rest and relaxation means less risk of intestinal illnesses, which are the leading cause of death in rabbits. And we all know that that's true of humans also. So stress can be a cause of so many illness. And here, even in the animal world, see how it works. So they're so akin, they're so alike, the human beings, and their societies are organized almost like that of the human beings. Jugjeev sir, did you raise your hand to say something?
No. We had a couple of children last time who
Yeah.
said that they had rabbits as pets. I'm
Yes.
just wondering if they're here, if you want to say something
Yeah,
on
I
that.
think Myra was not Myra. There was Ifra or
Ifra.
Ifra.
Yeah,
Ifra has a rabbit. She had said last time. Is Ifra here?
No.
No, I don't think she's here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll continue with the next chapter, because this was a very small chapter, and this is about good and evil. So imagine, we always are talking about good and evil. We talk about good and evil in the human society. We talk about how festivals are celebrated. One is coming along where we talk about the victory of good over evil. So let's see what the author has to say over here about good and evil. Animals are not necessarily better natured than people. They can be very aggressive, not only to other species, but to each other, as a quick look around our yard confirms. From the yard to the road, there are 4 beehives, and the busy bees fly out into the surrounding landscape to gather nectar. That's exhausting work, because bees must visit a lack of flowers to get enough nectar to produce 17 grams of honey. Just imagine, to produce 17 grams of honey, they have to visit so many flowers. No wonder honey sells at a certain price. They are not gathering their sweet cargo for me, the beekeeper, however. The honey they make from it will serve as a source of energy for the bees, which have to shiver their way through the cold of winter. If things don't go according to plan over the summer, and the stores of honey they lap up are not sufficient, the search is on for more abundant sources of sweetness. Sometimes the answer is not to find more colorful flowers. A completely different opportunity might come along in the form of a weak hive in the neighborhood. Scouts test the targeted hive's ability to defend itself, and if it has been weakened by parasites or pesticides, the call goes out to attack. Now, what does the word scouts here mean? What is to scout and who is a scout? Let's just quickly discuss that. So scouts test the targeted hives. So, the bees are supposed to be a community which is very well defined, and they're a very orderly community. So they actually delegate tasks to different bees to do different things. So here the author says that the bees send out scouts, meaning some bees act like scouts. And we can derive the meaning of the word to scout also from here. To scout is to go and test, to go and find out. So some bees act like scouts. They go out on a task and they try to test to see whether an abandoned hive or a hive which has become weak because parasites or pesticides have attacked it, they call out to the rest of their community, and the rest of the bees go to attack it, right? So that they can get not a very natural source of their honey, but a very ready-made source. So from here, whatever honey is left over in that diseased hive is what the bees will pick up. An intense battle ensues at the hive entrance, but the defenders can't hold off the invaders for long. At some point, the attacking force is just too strong, and the aggressor bees stream past the last dying fighters and advance inside. They pounce on the honeycombs and rip off their waxy covers. In no time at all, they pump their honey stomachs full and fly home, carrying with them the good news for other members of their hive that there's more than enough food stored here. In the hive belonging to the weak colony, there's a loud buzzing from the incessant beating of thousands of wings as the plunderers fly in and out. See, they've been called plunderers. Who's a plunderer? Now we read about plunderers in our history lessons so often. Who's a plunderer? And what is to plunder? I'm sure you know the meaning. Would some student want to volunteer and tell us who's a plunderer and what is incessant? Yeah. Should I call out to some names that I can see here? I can see Myra, I can see Karthik. Anyone who wants to venture an answer, who's a plunderer?
A person who attacks another person's home
Yes,
to
correct. Correct. We've had plunderers coming into our country. I'm sure you know of quite a few who have invaded us and looted us. So they now here, and what is incessant?
Janvi has a hand up.
Yeah. Tell me. A person who attacks someone and defeats him is a plunderer. All right, Ronak. I wanted to know if you know the meaning of the word incessant.
Ma'am, can I tell?
Yes, of course.
Ma'am, incessant means something which is a non-stop. We can call it
Yes.
constant, never ending.
Consistent, never end, almost never ending, incessant rains we've had in the north of India, right? So there's a loud buzzing from the incessant beating of thousands of wings as the plunderers fly in and out. When there's nothing more to collect, absolute silence descends. Unfortunately, just such a drama played out in my yard, and when I lifted the lid of the vanquished hive, what lay before me was a scene of utter devastation. Crumbs of wax on the hive floor were all that remained of the ripped and shredded combs. A few dead bees were lying around. That was it. And you know, this brings to my mind something interesting and quite horrific that we noticed in our school campus when I was teaching at a school called Vellum Girls in Dehradun. We had this huge tree, and on the tree was a beehive. And there was a little monkey that was roaming around on the campus. And this monkey, not knowing that bees can be so dangerous and so, they can really be absolutely angry if somebody goes near their hives. And this monkey, as monkeys will do, went and hit against the beehive. It was curious to know what was in it. And it put its hands on the beehive, and the bees stung it so badly that this poor monkey died. It had so many bee stings on it that it just fell from the tree. And so many of us, teachers and students, we just watched helplessly. We just couldn't do anything. So if a beehive is attacked when bees are in it, then you had it. But here we are talking about a hive where the bees have already been attacked by parasites and it's become a weak hive. And other bees have attacked it to get honey from it. And it is completely destroyed, right? Sorry about that noise. All right. So, any questions or anything that you want to share? Has anyone experienced anything with bees? No?
Actually,
All right, let's get,
human
yes, sir.
beings can be allergic to that as well.
Yeah,
There's somebody, many years junior at school, he
yeah,
passed away recently. Uh, he's pretty well known. Sanjay Kapoor used to run,
yes,
industry
yes,
close by.
yeah,
Basically, because of, while he was playing golf, a bee
yes. A bee is
went
supposed to
inside.
have entered his mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. A wasp had entered his mouth, they say, and it caused him to, have an attack because he couldn't breathe, or so they
Yeah.
say. Yeah. All right. So let's carry on. So despite the devastation is destruction, complete destruction. Despite the devastation, the attackers were far from satisfied. They had learned that life is much easier when you attack and plunder your neighbors. Yeah, that's what a lot of plunderers did to India also. If the opportunity arises, they'll do the same again with another hive. As a beekeeper, all I can do is separate the belligerent bees by setting up one of the two warring hives a few kilometers away to give the bees an opportunity to calm down. Of course, this isn't an option in the wild, where the game continues until evenly matched strong hives keep each other in check. It's not only the bees that panic shortly before the onset of winter. Brown bears, for example, can't store food for hibernation, and they have to put on a layer of fat by eating instead. If there's not much food to be had in autumn, or when the bears are older and can't gather as much, things get difficult for people as well as for the bears. The German filmmaker Andreas Keeling told me the sad story of his colleague Timothy Treadwell, who saw himself as the bear's friend and took no safety precautions around them. One day, he was watching an old male grizzly in Katmai National Park in Alaska. It had clearly not yet put on enough fat to make it through the winter, probably because it was no longer quick enough to catch the salmon it needed. Experts consider such animals to be particularly dangerous. What's a salmon? Has anyone seen a salmon? Or even for that matter, if there are children who and adults who eat fish, have you eaten a salmon? So I've given you a clue. What is a salmon? Yeah? Guess what's a salmon?
Ma'am, it's a fish.
It's a fish. And what color? There's a color named after the salmon.
Ma'am, silver.
No, it's pink. They say salmon pink is a color. Yes,
Yes,
Janvi. Were you going to say that?
ma'am, bright red or pink.
Yes, ma'am,
Right,
it's kind
pink.
of pink and
Yes.
sometimes orange in different kind of
That's right. So
food
that
cuisines.
particular shade of pink, in fact, is known as salmon pink. Okay, the L in salmon is silent. So salmon is not salmon, so it's salmon, right? So experts consider such animals to be particularly dangerous. As usual, Treadwell had neither a weapon nor pepper spray with him. The old bear attacked and killed him. His girlfriend, who was there, right there, watching, was horrified. And she began to scream. This predator call, a cry of fear made by prey that triggers a predator's desire to hunt, signaled that there was more food to be had. And so the woman ended up falling victim to the hungry bear too. The couple were later found buried near their tent. We have a pretty good idea of what happened because we have a recording. Treadwell's original intention had been to film the old bear and his camera was left running. The cap was still over the lens, but the camera picked up the sounds of the couple's final moments. But back to animal wars. You can only talk about war as we use the word to describe conflicts in species that live in large social groups. In Central European latitudes, that means bee, wasp, and ant colonies, which mount raids like we do. If, however, an animal attacks another individual by itself, then we talk of a fight, something you can see between many male birds or mammals. So see how beautifully you can now understand these two words and the difference between them. The difference between a war and a fight. So who's going to tell me what is the difference between a war and a fight? It's there in that para. Can anyone infer and tell me what is the difference between a war and a fight? Yeah, children try and... Yes, Janvi. Again, I have Janvi's hand up. Yes, also
Yes,
Myra's.
ma'am. Based on this para, as you have
Mm.
asked, I think war is something that is a kind of conflict over some groups in a social group. It
Yes.
can be kind of any group. And when we
Okay.
talk about a fight, it can involve individuals.
Yes. And so even the levels are different. Fight is
Yes, ma'am.
smaller, right? And the war is, of course, the biggest. And what is smaller than a fight? What's the other word?
Quarrel.
A quarrel, okay? And what's a battle? Have you heard of a battle? A battle is also a fight. A battle can be a little bigger than a fight. It can be between two very small groups, right? So here we are, learning not only about animals, the inner life of animals, but we are also, by the way, learning some English. Given that animals attack other animals, can they be considered heartless and evil? Yes, that's a question. Let's see if we can get some answers before we read the opinion of the author. Can we consider animals heartless and evil because they attack other animals? Yes, Myra?
Ma'am, not really, because even we humans attacked other people, and it's not that animals are attacking other animals for fun. It's out
Hmm.
of necessity.
Yes. And there is something called an ecosystem. And for the ecosystem to function, sometimes you have to allow this to happen. So there are bigger animals which depend upon others for their food. It's like that in the entire natural system, in the ecosystem. This is how it has been designed. But when animals, I mean, when human beings do that to each other, it's not because of an ecosystem. It's more because of greed. Okay, it's not because of a survival instinct that they do it. When we are fighting wars with other countries, it's because we want a territory, or more because we want what somebody else has. Okay, it's not the case with animals. And do you know something? If an animal is not hungry, he will not hunt. He will not attack another animal. So they follow all these rules and regulations, and they stay within their bounds as nature has prescribed it. So, okay. So sometimes it seems that way. I have two corner windows in my office, and when I look out of them, I can see an 80-year-old birch tree that grows in front of the forest lodge. The old tree, birches don't live past 100, has already experienced the ravages of time, or I should say, of woodpeckers. About 5 meters up, there is a natural nesting cavity that has been used by a variety of different birds over the years. After the woodpeckers, there were nuthatches for a number of years, and then one day, starlings. These lightly speckled birds began to successfully rear their young in the cavity. One day, I heard a loud screeching, and when I looked out of the window, I saw a magpie that kept flying at the tree. So here we are talking about various birds and how one particular bird had made that cavity its nest and was rearing its young ones there. Okay, so look at this word rear. What is to rear? R-E-A-R, rear. What is to rear? Give me the meaning. Yes, Janvi again. What are the other children doing? Yes, Janvi, tell me what is rear. Your hand is raised, or was it raised earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, rare has many different meanings. If we talk
Meanings?
about in nature, it can be to upbring,
To
and
bring
in
up.
sometimes if it to bring up, and if we sometimes talk about like in animals hunting, it can be like a falling off or something like that.
I didn't get the last part you said.
Sorry,
Somebody, what did you say at the end? What was the second meaning that you were trying to say about rare?
ma'am. At the end, I said that rare can sometimes mean to back off with something.
Acha, okay. Yes, it can also mean at the rear, right? At the far
Yes,
end
ma'am.
of it or at the back, right? And we
Yes.
also have R-A-R-E, rare, which is different from this. Okay, though the pronunciation is the same, but they're not synonyms, they're homonyms. All right. One day, I heard somebody had written the meaning over here, and they said rare is to domesticate. It's not really to domesticate. To rear is to bring up, to make young ones grow. The way, the birds also bring up their little ones till a certain time, but they push them out of the nest very early so that the little ones can fend for themselves and grow. Now here, the author's talking about a magpie, another bird that kept coming at the tree. Suddenly, it landed on the edge of the of the cavity and grabbed a little starling. It dropped it from the tree to the ground and began pecking away at it. Instinctively, I got up, left everything in the office, and rushed outside. The magpie flew a few meters and let go of its prize. The young starling was completely distraught, but it did not seem to have suffered any grave injury. I got a ladder and carefully returned it to the nest. As far as I could tell, there were no further attacks, and the baby bird got its start in life along with its siblings. And yet, things probably didn't turn out as they should have, and the fault was mine. What right did I have to get involved with the altercation? Okay, I had felt sorry for the little starling, and I couldn't just watch as it was killed. But from the point of view of the magpie, wasn't it just a piece of meat that was urgently needed to feed the magpie chicks? What if one of them had starved as a direct result of my intervention? In that moment, when the magpie pulled the young starling out of the cavity, I thought it was evil. But was it really? And what does that really mean? Evil. Can a quality like that depend on your point of view? Good question. Can a quality like that depend on your point of view? Yes, Karthik.
Yes, ma'am, it could represent from our point of view. From a point
Yeah.
of view, the author, it was evil for Magpie to get the
Kill.
incident out of kill the
Yeah.
small chick, but from point of Magpie, it wasn't.
It
was
wasn't.
a necessity.
Yeah, right. Because the magpie, as a parent, as a mother bird, was trying to take meat for its little one. So that was her way of surviving and looking after her little ones. But The author, that's why the author says, I had no right to interfere in this natural process. So, can a quality like that depend on your point of view? If so, then from the magpie's point of view, I was the evil one who had prevented the mother or the father from making a kill. From the point of view of its species, the behavior of the handsome black and white bird had been beyond reproach. Beyond reproach. What is that? The action was beyond reproach. The behavior of this bird was beyond reproach. Means that, does anyone want to take a chance in guessing the meaning? No? Okay, so what he says here is that this magpie and what it was trying to do was something that cannot ever be condoned with, or you can't say it is all right for it to have done that. That is being beyond reproach, meaning there was no excuse at all to accept that kind of behavior. But I too am a typical representative of my species. For most human observers, finding themselves in this situation would also have taken pity on the starling. So what would it look like if a similar incident were to take place between animals of the same species? This isn't unusual in the wild, as we can see with brown bears. In this case, it's the males that can be deadly for the cubs. When mating time approaches, males look for females who are ready to mate. Females with cubs aren't in the mood, and so males often just go ahead and take care of this. They kill the cubs, and shortly thereafter, the mothers are ready for their next pregnancy, a natural response to the emergency. Because mother bears are well aware of the male's intentions, they try to keep their distance from potential admirers. Alternatively, they mate with as many males as possible so that each thinks he might be the father of the amusing tots and leaves the mother and children in peace. Scientists from the University of Vienna have established that promiscuous behavior is not purely for sexual pleasure, but is indeed a defensive strategy employed by the females. After observing bears for 20 years in Scandinavia, they confirmed that this behavior happened most often in populations where a particularly large number of cubs were falling victim to attack by males. Are these male bears evil? The dictionary defines evil as morally bad, reprehensible. Or, to put it more clearly, you could say, for an action to be evil, the perpetrator must intend to violate a moral code to the detriment of others. Okay, that's a difficult line. Let's just look at this sentence. To put it more clearly, you could say for an action to be evil, the perpetrator is the person who does the action. The person who's initiating a particular action is a perpetrator. Must intend to violate a moral code. To violate a moral code means to break a moral code. Now, what are moral codes? We follow moral codes very strictly. That's why there is order in society. And when the moral code is broken, then people get punished. They have to face a court of law. So a moral code can be, followed in two ways. One, there is a moral code which is taught to us by the religious group that we belong to. Sometimes moral codes are taught to us by the families that we come from. And moral codes are also generally taught to us also by the law of the land. So if anybody breaks this moral code, if anybody breaks a religious law or a law of the land and brings harm to others, then he becomes a perpetrator of evil intentionally. right? But when it is done accidentally, then it is a different story altogether. So neither magpies nor bears do that, for their actions are part of the normal behavioral repertoire for their respective species. However, the behavior of the white rabbits we acquired one day was definitely not normal. So what the author is trying to say is that often in human society, moral codes are broken, most often intentionally. In the animal world, he says generally the animals don't do that. But he's giving us an instance here of one such breaking of the normal law. We wanted to switch from the typical common or garden mixes we had on our little farm to purebred animals. And we drove a few villages farther on to take a look at white Viennas. These rabbits have soft, silky fur and adorable blue eyes, and we just had to take a few of them home with us. Back at our forest lodge, they got a spacious run, but the idyll lasted only for a few weeks. One day, we came into the pen and saw a wretched little shape hunkered down on the ground. It was a small female, and her ears were slashed so badly that they hung in tatters. We felt so sorry for her, and we thought that there must have been a fierce struggle for dominance. Over the next few days, there were more and more rabbits with slashed ears, and as we watched, we confirmed what we had begun to suspect. One of the females had inflicted these brutal wounds on the others with her razor-sharp front claws. Logically, the ruthless lady was the only one hopping around with ears intact. Now, was this a bad rabbit? I believe it was. This wasn't species appropriate behavior. And it couldn't be defended on moral grounds either. Whichever way you look at it, the rabbit's intentions were evil. After all, the animal must have acted intentionally, and the others had done nothing to encourage her to act the way she did. You could argue that this rabbit might have been traumatized by a dreadful experience in her youth that could have driven her to behave this way. Absolutely. But isn't this almost always the case with human evildoers as well? Every evil act can be traced back to a point where it can be explained and therefore excused. For simplicity's sake, let's apply the same standards to both animals and people and assume that both have at least a basic level of free will when it comes to deciding how to act. It's not only people who have this freedom of choice, lots of animals do too. Any thoughts? Does anyone want to share anything here? Yeah. Is there anyone who wants to say anything at all?
Ma'am, this is Hindi Divas? I just want to say a sentence in Hindi.
Oh, good, good, good. Please, first of all, yes, happy Hindi Divas to everybody. It's Rashtriya Divas today.
Yes. So, सारी कुर्सी का मामला है.
Sara kursi ka mamla hai. Sara, everything is a struggle of power. Everybody wants power. Yes.
So, कुर्सी के मामले में एक दूसरे को ये मार रहे हैं, परेशान कर रहे हैं. और उनको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि इससे उनकी अपनी कम्युनिटी छोटी होती जा रही है. So this is what one thing we all should understand, that because of the power, to gain the power, we should not be so evil that our own community becomes bad.
Yeah. Also, there's another sentence over here which I'm wondering how would the children react to this? It says over here, whichever way you look at it, the rabbit's intentions were evil. After all, the animal must have acted intentionally, and the others had done nothing to encourage her to act the way she did. But there is an excuse that has been found, that maybe she was traumatized by a dreadful experience in her youth. And the author goes on to say that every act of evil can be traced to a certain point. And we can always say, oh, he acted like this because of this. So do we excuse someone because somebody has acted in a certain way because of their circumstances, or because something was done to them and they had to get back at society or behave in a certain way? What is your opinion? Yes, Karthik.
What wrong could be committed if it has already been done? If something bad has happened to them in their youth or some place like that, couldn't they just try to forgive it in a way in which they don't need to just get it back on the society?
Absolutely. So it's obviously they can't forget. They want to let out their frustration. They want to let out what is bothering them. And so they hit out, they lash out, right? Yes, Janvi, you had raised your hand too. Yes, Janvi, go ahead and
Yes,
speak.
ma'am. My opinion in this would be that sometimes people who act evil become evil to the society. People don't know what they have faced. As in the first para, it is written that rabbit's intentions were evil. But in the second para, the author has also explained that it can be an experience from her youth that has
Yes.
driven her in this behavior. So if we don't
Yeah.
know at the exact reason, this can't be the point to consider someone evil until they have intentions to do it.
Okay. Yes. So both ways there can be arguments on both sides. Yes, we can feel sorry for them that they acted in this way because they didn't know better, right? And so we can say, all right, but would you or would you not punish someone who has done a dreadful act because something dreadful was done to him or her? That's the question.
Ma'am, in that
Yes.
case, the person should be punished because if, for example, if I am scolded at home and if to take out my that rage, I will go to school and do the same with my friends. This isn't
Exactly.
correct because I was scolded for my fault. I am not
Yes.
supposed to take out that rage on others who had nothing to
Absolutely.
relate with it.
Absolutely right. Yes, Myra.
Yes, ma'am, I wanted to just say the same as well. The
Right.
person should be punished, even if
Ah,
it's not, their intentions weren't exactly evil, but
ah.
they should be scolded so that they know that it is still wrong, even
Yes.
if something like that was done to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because every person who does something really punishable has an excuse. Yes, Karthik.
I believe the person should be punished on the way you are perceiving the word evil. For according to dictionary, he should be punished for if his actions were something like
Against the
that.
moral code.
But according to other morals from religious texts and all else, he could be punished for something else which wasn't considered evil from other point of view.
Right. Yeah. And also sometimes instead of punishing them very badly, some kind of you can give them some kind of a treatment. They could be counseled. All kinds of things can be done to rectify certain behavior. So I think in a lot of societies this is also followed, where that's why in prisons you have reform movements. So prisons are full of people who have done some act which is not correct as per the law. So they're put in prison, and a lot of things are done in order to kind of correct them. And some of them take the correction very well, but some of them don't, right? And even in prison, they continue to do certain things which are evil, right? So that's what happens, right? So, Manisha ma'am, do you think we should go on to the next chapter or should we stop here?
No, Brinda ma'am, we're
Yeah.
very close to the end. I just had, one question.
Yes.
Listening to that bit about the bears,
Yeah.
what struck me was that animals can recognize each other. I mean,
Yes.
to me, they all seem the same, right? I have difficulties figuring out.
True. True.
But
I think the animals have a very strong instinct, and that is what I think drives them.
yeah,
Karthik has an opinion.
smell obviously is one way,
Yeah.
right? But even then, I sort of Googled it, and Gemini
Yeah.
tells me that yeah, and crows
Ah,
remember the person who's done something wrong to them for
absolutely.
generations.
Yes. Yes. Even elephants. They say that, we do talk about an elephantine memory. So
Yes,
apparently, elephants never forget anything that has been done to them. And we've read a lot of stories where we've seen about or heard about elephants taking a revenge. But crows, we have come across so many stories where crows have attacked people as soon as they come out of the house and things like that. So yes, it's a fascinating world.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Karthik.
Karthik has his hand up.
Ma'am,
Yes.
animals have a very different kind of being, like something in their mind that help them distinguish between their children and others. But it
Yes.
is found in females of the species, mostly because males left after mating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And due to memories, yes, animals have very strong memories and they could remember their attackers as well. It would be
Absolutely.
same for uh, primates as well.
Yes. Yes. That's well said, Karthik. You're very right. And we have constantly come across animals showing this kind of a behavior. So, yeah, sometimes they have, and you very rightly said that the female of the species have better memories because they are the ones, or rather, they recognize their children better because they are the ones who are looking after them. Yeah. Yes, Janvi.
Ma'am, my opinion, as we talked about the memory thing in crows and elephants, as you discussed.
Yeah.
So, what I think is that as animals have strong survival instincts, like they think about danger and all. So, maybe remembering threats, enemies, or some bad experience can help in their survival to avoid the danger next time. That's
Yeah.
why they remember it
Yes.
very sure.
True. And, it is again, there are many experiments which have been conducted on animals to show that once they face a certain situation, they would not venture into that particular situation again. See, like the instance of the magpie that the author had written about, and the one we just read, the magpie didn't come back ever again that side to attack another starling. It didn't come to the nest because the author had shooed him away, and he knew that here is a place where there is no safety as such. So he knew that he can't successfully go and bring out another bird. So birds, animals, insects, they all remember. Even in your own house, if you have a lizard inside your house, you will notice that it doesn't come out when there is a light on. And if you are around, and the moment you go into a particular space, and if there is a lizard, it will sense it and it will quickly move away from that space. Right? So all animals, they have this instinct of keeping themselves safe. And unless they sense some danger, they will not charge at you or try to attack you. Yeah. Yes,
Okay,
sir and ma'am.
we'll hand it back to Manisha, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jagjeev sir, Vrinda ma'am. It was such a lovely and wonderful session, and the discussions really, thanks to the students also, they have participated so well in the discussions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like every time, it doesn't happen that they're participating so lovingly, and they are showing that yes, whatever they have understood. So I would request all my dear and lovely students to get back to us, write down as a reflection what you have taken from this, and then is be published, and we are going to read that also the next week. I best of luck for your examination,
Oh,
and
they
do
have an
visit
exam.
next week
Okay.
also, because this is something apart from your examination which you are going to gain. And as what I can see, you love being here. So thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Manisha ma'am and
Bye,
sir
Jai
and
Hind.
children.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Jai Hind. Take care.
Bye. Jai Hind.